Kommen wir zum Vortrag. Ich habe gehört, er ist da. Ja, Sandeep, der Product Manager von Pentaho, der uns heute die Roadmap präsentieren wird, dem ihr jederzeit eure Fragen stellen könnt, ja, den ihr hoffentlich jetzt löchern könnt. Und ja, ich wechsle kurz auf Englisch. Hello, Sandeep. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Super being here. Yeah, we're looking forward for your roadmap sessions, and we have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
First of all, yeah, the stage is yours.
Yes, and absolutely. And apologies for the delay. There was some confusion with the time zone and such. So I really apologize for for the delay here.
No problem.
Let me bring up the presentation. Let me know. If you guys can see it. Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. So thank you everyone for taking the time to go through the roadmap presentation here. We shared a roadmap last year. There are some changes to what we're bringing to the market. There have been a couple of changes since the last time we spoke as well, right? So I'll share all of that with you guys here. And please take this as an opportunity to look at the roadmap and see if there are if you want to provide feedback on it, if there are other things that you want to see on it, right? And of course there will be Q&A at the end to answer any questions. In terms of the agenda, right, we'll just take a really short amount of time, call it 5 minutes, just to go through what came out in 10.2, and we are tweaking our release schedule, right? We are no longer going to have releases like 10.0, 10.1, non-LTS releases, and so on. So we are updating our release cadence, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So those items 1 and 2, we'll try and run through that given the time that we have. But really wanted to emphasize what's in 10.2 and how we are changing the release schedule going forward to better align with what our customers want. And then we will go into the roadmap priorities and highlights. And then finally, you guys must have already seen the demo from Clemens, right, on the new PDI web UI, on the data pipes piece. There are a couple of other features that are coming out in October, right, in release 11, what we're calling release 11, that we would like to share as well, right? So if time permits, if we have 5 or 10 minutes left at the end, then we'll go through a quick demo as well, and then finally a couple of minutes left for the Q&A. So jumping into the first thing, right, release 10.2 that came out in August. That's a long-term supported release. We are going to support it for 3.5 years, and then of course extend support beyond that. We have already had 3 service packs come out for 10.2 since August, right, with significant updates to the vulnerabilities that are addressed. I think we are happy to report that we, as of service pack 3, we don't have any high or critical vulnerabilities, at least none that that were discovered at that time. Right? We don't have any high or critical vulnerabilities in PDI or business analytics. That was our objective, and with 10.2 Service Pack 3, all critical and high vulnerabilities are addressed. We are looking at addressing the medium severity vulnerabilities as well, but that will be over a period of time. But coming back to 10.2, right, security enhancements, I just spoke about that. JDK 17 support. We also introduced hyperscaler container images, right, for hyperscaler environments, right, be it their managed Kubernetes environment or just plain Docker deployments. Hyperscaler marketplace offerings, you can acquire PDI and business analytics via hyperscaler marketplaces, right, and pay on a consumption basis. And of course, we have introduced a license manager as part of the overall product suite, right, in release 10.2. On the data integration side, the big change was the thin kettle engine. It's a more performant engine compared to 9.3. We have taken a lot of cruft out of the engine and made it into plugins. There are a number of step and job entry enhancements. I've just lumped that as just one bullet point. If you look at the release notes, we have made a number of enhancements to various steps and job entries. We have also introduced new plugins like hierarchical data type and bulk loaders for a number of systems such as Salesforce, Redshift, right, and a couple of other sources and targets. But the release notes will give you, definitely a more expansive list of what's there for data integration. And on business analytics, we've had BA server performance improvements, right? We have seen, significant improvements in memory usage and CPU usage for BA server workloads. Again, the release notes sort of give out some of the details there. One important thing on the BA part was WCAG 2.1 compliance on a number of BA components. This will make it more attractive for, definitely a lot of public sector customers, right? Because they need to be WCAG compliant, but also there are plenty of private sector customers as well who do look for, WCAG compliance. And on top of that, there have been several analyzer, scheduler and PIR enhancements, right? Again, these notes will be the best place to look at the details for this. On analyzer, we introduced a number of additional chart types. The user experience to select the chart types has also changed a little bit, but all of these, we cover in the release notes. But I really just wanted to quickly give a highlight of, since the last time we spoke, 10.2 has come out. It's a long-term supported release. Some really big, some major aspects of 10.2 are just highlighted here. And then the other main piece that I wanted to talk about was the new release schedule. Right? Historically, if you guys remember, right after 9.3, we put out 9.4, 9.5. These were not long-term supported releases. Then we put out 10.2, again a not long-term supported release, and then we put out 10.1, which was also not a long-term supported release. And we only put out 10.2 like 2.5 years after 9.3, right, which was the last long-term supported release. We realized that customers don't really want non-long-term supported releases. They really only want long-term supported releases, given how they deploy it, given how they use it, right? It cannot be that, hey, you put out a release and just support it for 6 months. So therefore, what we're doing is we are doing away with any of those 10.2, 10.1, or 9.4, 9.5 type of releases which are not long-term supported, right? Instead, we are only going to come out with long-term supported releases every 12 to 18 months, right? Just to show this on this diagram here, right? We came out with 10.2 in August of last year. We are going to come out with 11 in Q4 of this year, right? And then 12 will again be, Q4 of next year, or perhaps Q1 of 2027. That part we have to, still sort of get aligned on. But our target is every 12 to 18 months, we will come out with a long-term supported release, right? And of course, service packs will continue to be delivered every quarter. After the first 2 years, we will reduce the frequency of service packs, right? And then after 3.5 years, right, will be our formal EOL for most of our releases. That's the minimum. We will have a long-term supported release supported for a minimum of 3.5 years. After that, you can have extended support, or we may decide to extend the life of that release as well. But our commitment is that you will only see long-term supported releases every 12 to 18 months, and each long-term supported release will be supported for about 3.5 years, if not more. That's the big change that's happening compared to where we were in terms of how we released versions of Pentaho, right? Just to highlight the key takeaways, right? Only LTS releases, minimum of 3.5 years, lifetime, with extended support after available after that. We will release it every 12 to 18 months. We put out a new LTS release every 12 to 18 months. And in between those releases, it will be very important for customers. What we are introducing is the early access program, which will allow early access customers to preview features that are coming in the next long-term supported release. And also, we will be releasing functionality as plugin releases, more functionality as plugin releases going forward. And these plugin, where possible, right? I mean, if something can be released as a plugin, we will release it as a plugin as opposed to putting it in the core platform. This is number one, to ensure that we can, release this functionality faster, right? If it's a plugin, we can release it faster. We can deploy it independently. We can update it independently, and customers, need not upgrade the entire platform just to get a new feature, right? They can just deploy the plugin. So that's going to be our approach going forward, right? 12 to 18 months LTS, supported for minimum 3.5 years, early access program for you guys to preview the features, right? And then plugin releases where possible, so that we deliver functionality between LTS releases, Of course, these plugins will also be LTS. They will be long-term supported as they are part of, as they're being deployed on a long-term supported release. And this will minimize deployment effort for customers. So hopefully that, I sort of rushed through that, just wanted to see if there are any questions on this before I jump into the roadmap. Okay, if not, let me carry on with the roadmap. We can definitely take questions either from the chat or at the end. Roadmap priorities, if I know it has been a while, but these priorities are very similar to what we had shared last year, right? They're the same priorities, right? Ease of use, user experience, performance and scalability, application and data observability, both multiple integration patterns, and packaging and deployment flexibility, right? These continue to be our priorities, right? And now let me just share with you what the timeline looks like, going forward for call it, the next couple of quarters, right? So Q2 and Q3 of 25, right, which is what we are in. We are in Q2 and part of Q3 for 2025. We are going to put out a couple of one plugin release, which is one is for data lineage for PDI, right? And I think Clemens may have shared, what data lineage looks like, right? And then how PDI produces it and how we view it in PDC. And I hope that demo was very helpful. But that's what we are putting out in Q2, Q3. We have a couple of early access items already available for customers, and some customers are already, testing it out, validating it for us, customers and partners, right? Web UI for PDI, project and lifecycle management, and then we are in the process of getting to a beta of change data capture come end of Q2, early Q3. So these will be sort of the plugin releases, early access releases this quarter, next quarter. And Q4 of this year, we will come out with release 11. That's going to be our next long-term supported release. And in that, we will GA quite a few features, right? Number one will be the web UI for PDI, which Clemens showed an early preview of. Project and lifecycle management to help you with your DevOps/DataOps, to apply proper DevOps practices to your retail development cycle. JDK 21 and Tomcat 11 support, right? Hotel-based observability for your logs, traces, and metrics. This has been a challenge with both PDI and PBA, where perhaps the application observability has not been the best, right? And the ability to view those logs, analyze those logs, right? Analyze those metrics has been challenging, right? Even with OpsSmart, right? Given the performance issues with OpsSmart and all that, it has been difficult to understand the logs, measure the right things for your transformations and jobs, right? And be able to analyze all of this information. With hotel observability and us bundling OpenObserve together with it, we expect that customer need will be met and the challenges around observability will be addressed to a certain extent. Another big piece that will come out in release 11 is support for OIDC and OAuth 2.2, right? This may be more on the PBA side, but even on the PDI side, this is important because we are targeting to have even the client tools, right? Be it Spoon, right? Of course, Web UI for PDI will be OIDC, OAuth 2 enabled, but even Spoon will connect to the repository. This we will finalize, but our target is to have even Spoon connect to the repository using OAuth to OIDC, right? As opposed to just today you only have basic auth or basic auth with LDAP authentication behind it, but you don't have more modern ways of authenticating from our client tools. So we will be introducing that in release 11. And with release 11, we will be bringing back the plugin manager, right? A better version of the plugin manager that will allow you to get plugins from our marketplace, right? And these will be both Pentaho developed plugins and partner developed plugins. You'll be able to access those plugins on the marketplace via both PDI and PPA and be able to deploy them in, right? Given our strategy to only put out long-term releases every 12 to 18 months and put out plugin releases in between as much as possible, this is very important as this enables customers to sort of deploy that additional functionality in a really easy way, as opposed to having to go through our typical upgrade cycle, right? We want to avoid that. And in Q4, we will be introducing early access for Git integration and unit testing, and data pipes in PDI. I think Clemens shared what data pipes look like. I'll share another version of what that will look like within PDI as well. But that's what we are going to introduce as early access in Q4 2025. And in Q1 of 2026, we will go GA with change data capture. So it will be available as GA and long-term supported in release 11, right? And data quality integration as well. This is where we will integrate with our data quality module to allow for data quality checks in your pipelines, right? Be it KTRs or KJBs. This will allow for data quality checks based on data quality rules that are established centrally, right? Those data quality rules can be applied to your data pipelines. Just to give a little more detail here, this will essentially be a significant enhancement of the data validator step today, right? The data validator step, of course, provides you a lot of flexibility, but in terms of how you want to define the data quality checks. But we felt that the direction that data quality is taking now, you want these data quality rules to be defined in a central location, and then have your ETL sort of pull the data quality rules from that central repository and apply those data quality rules to the data that is moving through your pipelines. So that data quality integration we will be introducing, and these will be brought as a plugin release. Right? And we will also introduce ETL for unstructured data. Right? This is to address the typical RAG use case, retrieval augmented generation use case for Gen AI applications, right? Where one of the key pieces of a typical a RAG setup is the ingestion of unstructured data, parsing it, chunking it, creating the embeddings for it, and pushing it to a vector database, right? And while that pipeline may sound very simple, there are lots of things that can go wrong there, right? And you want to track a lot of things as that pipeline is being executed, right? And we felt that that's essentially ETL for unstructured data, right? You're bringing in your PDFs, your doc files, your PPT files, your other unstructured data. You're parsing it, you're chunking it, you're creating the embeddings for it, and pushing it to a vector database that can then be used in your your chat application or whatever other RAG application that you have downstream, right? All of them need some way of accessing the embeddings for all your unstructured data, and we will enable pipelines that will allow you to do just that, right? So that will be introduced as beta in Q1 26, right? And then in Q2 26, Git integration and unit testing will be released, will GA as a plugin release, and the same goes for data pipes. Right? And then after that, right, all the way in Q4 26, we will come out with release 12, right? That will be our next long-term supported release. It might be Q4 26, it might be Q1 27. The date needs to be finalized, but that will be release 12. And there, the focus areas will be push-down processing, with both AEL and SQL, right? With Spark and with SQL executing in relational databases. We will be enhancing our PDC integrations, right, with our data catalog integrations. We will introduce change data capture for SaaS sources such as Salesforce, HubSpot, etc. And there will be the ETL for unstructured data that will go GA in Q4 26, right? It'll early access in Q1 and it'll go GA in Q4 26. The timeline there might shift. We might GA earlier, but for now we're targeting Q4 26. And we will also be enabling citizen data engineer use cases. That's essentially extending data pipes to deliver additional functionality, and all of that sort of comes out in Q4 26. So instead of just giving you guys a 3-column roadmap, right, where we typically talk about what's now, next, and later, right? Here's our thinking was, perhaps we can give you an idea of around which quarter each of these are coming in and in what way, right? What's coming out in a major release, in an LTS release? What's coming out in a plugin release, which is still LTS but will be easier to deploy, right? You'll not have to go through an upgrade cycle. And what's coming out as early access that early access customers can access and test out in their environment. So this is what the PDI roadmap looks like. Let me take a quick pause, see if there are any questions before moving on. Okay, not.
No questions.
Or we can always take questions at the end as well, so no issues there, right? So moving on to the BA roadmap, right? Part of this we had shared last year as well, the same with PDI, right? Right now, two major things are in early access with some of our customers and partners, right? The web UI for semantic models, which will replace schema workbench altogether, right? The shape that it has taken, we feel confident that schema workbench can be, of course, it will be up to customers to tell us that, but we feel that schema workbench can potentially be retired, and maybe even the metadata editor call it in a couple of releases. But this is good. This is already in early access, web UI for semantic models, and Pentaho user console. It's going through a major refresh, and that is also in early access with some of our customers and partners. In Q4 25 with release 11, right, these two things will go GA, right? Semantic models user experience, which is supposed to replace, the schema workbench, DSW, right? All of those components will get replaced with this, with just with the new semantic model user experience. There's the overall Pentaho user console refresh. Two other things which are sort of common with PDI, but also apply to PBA, right? Would be the JDK 21 and Tomcat 11 upgrades, right? Tomcat 11 really being important for BA. Hotel observability for better application observability to understand what's happening with your application. How are scheduled jobs performing? Can you search through your logs? What are the metrics you want to track, and so on. Same as PDI, similar concept to PDI, right? We are introducing that with release 11. OIDC OAuth support, right? So now you will be able to log into BA with OIDC and OAuth support, right? Even for scheduling, we are introducing OIDC OAuth support so that there is so that we do it in a more modern way as opposed to how we have been doing it till now, right? With proper authentication and authorization support based on standards such as OAuth. Right? So this goes beyond SAML. This goes beyond LDAP-based authentication that we have enabled in the past. This is true OAuth enablement, right? So that you can use any OAuth compliant IDP for authentication and authorization. Plugin manager, again, given our focus on plugins as a way to deliver functionality, this will allow customers to sort of deploy that functionality without having to go through a full upgrade cycle. And we are also redesigning the permissions in BA. We are making them more fine-grained, right, than what they are today. In Q4 25, we will also, beta early access some Mondrian performance improvements, right? And we will also start supporting direct connectivity with underlying sources. What that means is, in Analyzer, you will be able to connect directly to an underlying source as opposed to having to go through Mondrian, right? And there are many use cases where we want to do this because in a lot of cases Mondrian doesn't translate the query in the most performant way. It would be best to just execute the query straight on the underlying data source without Mondrian translating in between. And this will also result in a better user experience for our customers, where in order to use Analyzer, today they have to define a data model, right? They have to define a Mondrian model before they can use Analyzer. We want to go away from that. You'll still have the flexibility to do that, but you will be able to use Analyzer without having to define, a data model. And you can, within Analyzer, just connect to a data source, a relational data source, and build out your reports straight from it, as opposed to having to, build out a Mondrian model every time. So that will beta in Q4. Right. We will also introduce lineage for Analyzer and PIR reports, right? So data lineage for Analyzer and PIR reports. You will be able to see where the data for your Analyzer and PIR report is coming from, and trace it all the way back, right? Given depending on how much data lineage is captured. In Q1 26, we will come out with a beta for the refreshed Analyzer and Dashboard Designer, right? This will be based on our new user experience that the semantic model editor and other components will already be following, but Analyzer and Dashboard Designer will already migrate to this user experience by Q1 26. So we will early access that, preview that with key customers, and there will be other changes to Analyzer as well. The example that I gave of direct connectivity to the underlying source, right? Being able to use Analyzer in a mode where you're connecting directly to the relational source as opposed to having a data model always defined in between, right? As opposed to having a Mondean model always defined in between. We feel that that will be pretty important for. A lot of customers have been asking us for that. Not everyone wants to build out a data model and then build out their reports, right? They really want to start building out their reports as soon as possible. So all that will happen in Q1 26, and in Q2 26 we will GA a lot of this functionality as plugin releases, right? No longer early access. This will all go out as plugin releases that customers can then deploy, and use it in production, right? Because at that point these will all be supported GA releases. And then finally release 12, which will again be towards the end of next year. We will have Mondean 4 enhancements. We will be supporting Mondean 4, right? And there will be enhancements associated with the Mondean engine, deeper enhancements associated with the Mondean engine. Integration with our PDC product, with our data catalog product, to support discovery and guided analytics, right? To support data discovery and guided analytics, right? Because in order to build out your visualizations, in order to build out your reports, the first thing is you need the data. How do you go and discover that data, right? PDC is the right place for it, and we want to integrate with PDC to provide that experience to users within VA, so that they can search for the data that they want, identify the data that they want, and then use it in their reports and visualizations, right? Look at the data quality and then use it in their reports and visualizations. And of course, we will continue to support, continue to perform, continue to deliver several user experience enhancements and support a broader set of analytics DBs, not just limited to something that Mondean supports, or not just related to typical relational databases, but a broader set of analytics DBs. That's sort of the PBA roadmap, right? And then we have if time permits, then we'll just sort of jump into a quick demo. But before I do that, any questions from the audience?
Yes, we have questions.
Is part of contribution, or do we need a separate license for each plugin?
Could you understand it, Sandeep?
Yes, I did. For the most part, we do not expect that there will be a separate license for each plugin, right? There might be some plugins. Actually, none of the ones that are listed here, at least, that would require a separate license if you're a premium or an enterprise customer, right? But there might be plugins in the future that might require a separate license, especially if they are delivered by our partners, right? Or if we feel that it delivers functionality beyond, beyond what the initial promise was of the platform, then there might be some plugins that require, a separate license. But at least the ones that you see here, do not require a separate license. If it'll depend on the package that you have, but if you have the appropriate package, we don't expect these to require a separate license. Of course, partner delivered plugins will require a separate license.
Thank you.
Another question? Is there one question in the chat?
Yeah, I think we have one.
Okay.
Chat. Are there any improvements planned for the report design?
For the report designer, so with our report designer, we are currently, at least in the near future, we are not planning any enhancements to the desktop tool, to the desktop application. Our strategy with that is to bring in as much functionality as possible into PIR, right? Into interactive reports, into the web-based UI, right? It's not shown in the roadmap here because we're still sort of figuring out what that looks like. But our current strategy is to bring as much functionality into PIR, right? Because Report Designer, you need to deploy it on everybody's desktop. It's it's a fairly dated Java application, right? Enhancements to it are not that easy to make and not that easy to deliver either to customers. So we want to migrate as much of the functionality that Report Designer delivers into PIR and within a web-based interface, right? So that's going to be our strategy going forward. But we are not retiring it by any means, because it's going to take us, a couple of releases to get it right? So we will, of course, continue to support it, address any issues, right? And if it aligns with our broader strategy, address any enhancement requests as well. But if we find that, call it over the next couple of releases, we see that PIR is able to deliver the functionality that Report Designer has, and if customers accept it, right, and customers transition over to PIR, then at that point we will start thinking about, hey, do we really need Report Designer and PIR, right? But that's further down the road.
There was a question about PUC. What is it? Pentaho User Control?
Pentaho User Console. Yeah.
Console. Yeah. Cool.
One other question? No other questions. So yeah, then we're looking forward to your demo.
All right. I still have about 10 minutes, right, Philip?
We have all the time you need.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. All right. So let me jump into the demos. So a couple of demos that we wanted to cover today with you. I think, on the PDI side, right? If I look at the PDI side here, I think Clemens probably took you guys through what the new PDI web UI looks like. So that's probably covered. And he also showed you the data pipes demo, if I understand it correctly. But I'll take you guys through what we have planned for data pipes beyond what the existing demo was. On the BA side, we will quickly run through the refreshed Pentaho user console and what the new semantic model editor looks like, right? So let me start with the BA piece, right? So just give me a second and I'll pull this up. Let me share. Okay, it's not allowing me to select a tab. Okay, let me just do this. Let me know if you guys can see the user console landing page. I'm sharing that right now.
Yes, we can
Can
see
you guys
it.
see it? Okay, awesome. So this is what Pentaho user console looks like today, right? I mean, this is the landing page. This is how you navigate to various pieces and all that, right? I'll switch to the modern design, and this is what it will look like, in release 11, right, coming out in Q4, right? Definitely a more modern experience and aligned with our overall platform, right? It's aligned with the other products that we have in our platform. This is going to be a consistent user experience, right? You would have seen Clemens demonstrate the PDI web UI. That will all be accessible from here, right? And this entire screen here is configurable, right? You can configure it based on the role, based on a particular user. Users will have the ability to customize it, right? They can set up different quick accesses. They can set up, have a different widget in this part. Some users may want, dashboards showing up in this part. Of course, the dashboards part will come once we have the analyzer and dashboard designer refresh. But the landing page itself will be configurable in terms of what users can see and do in this part. So this will be switch to the completely new design that we have for Pentaho. It will be more configurable than what Pentaho user console allows for today. And on top of that, we are gradually replacing all the components that Pentaho User Console has today, right? You can see the admin components, that Pentaho User Console has today. These will all be supported here. And once we have analyzer, dashboard designer, all those pieces here, they will also show up on the menu. Again, those will also all depend on what you have access to, what your role looks like, right? What permissions you have, and so on. Right? This will be the new browse files experience. What is not shown here is we're also adding search functionality. Today, User Console doesn't have a search functionality to search for content in your repository, or in some cases it doesn't really work very well. So we are introducing new search functionality. That search bar is not shown, but there is going to be search to enable you to search through your repository in a more convenient way, and that will come with release 11 as well. Right. So that's what the user console will look like. And of course, the user console is the container. You'll have many applications within it, right? You have all your admin panels, you have all PDI web, right, which Clemens took you through, right? All those things will be sort of plugged into the overall new user console. So this is going to be the new look and feel for the user console, and that's sort of what we are going to be delivering in release 11. Right. So that's on the user console piece. The second piece that we wanted to show you on the BA side of things, right, is the model editor. Right. So the model editor replaces, data source wizard. It replaces schema workbench. Right. All of the functionality in there, the model editor is going to replace. And by the second release of the model editor, we hope to also provide the functionality that the metadata editor used to provide, right? So that all your data modeling needs are met within this user interface, right? So when you go into the model editor, you can see the list of existing models that are there, right? So let me just go into one of the existing models, right? This is I'm just pulling up an existing model, right, that has one fact table, one dimension, and a couple of measures that I have defined. The other good thing about this is, you can see this model as a tree. If that is how you like to visualize Mondrian models or these semantic models. And you also have the ability, if you are an advanced user, to actually modify the XML that is behind these Mondrian models, right? And this XML has this provides you with help that will allow you to modify this XML if you want to, right? If you're more comfortable modifying the Mondrian XML, you can do that. There is Code Insight here, right? So to help you actually do the work here in an easy way, just as VS Code or IntelliJ does, right? So this XML editor is fairly feature rich in terms of being Mondrian schema aware and presenting the right options to you as you're editing the document, right? So for example, if I want to enter a new measure, right, this really allows me to do what I need to do in a really quick way, as opposed to having to hand code everything, right? So something like this, right? And yeah, let me close this, right? And while that saves, I'll just go to the model canvas, let it just save, right? This is running on my laptop, so it is going to be a little slow. Right, saved, and this will show up in the model canvas, right? The measures show up here. I can also, this is here, right? I can add in additional dimensions, right? I can drag and drop additional tables to bring in additional dimensions, right? All those are possible from here. Depending on the type of user, if they're more comfortable with dragging and dropping fact tables or dimensions and doing everything within a UI, they can do that. Or if they're more comfortable editing the underlying model file, they can do that as well, right? Just to give you another example, right, the way I would add a simple measure, right, would be something like this, right? Let me book let's say I'm adding a new measure. And as you can see, it's a pretty straightforward way of just adding that new measure, right? Average extended price, it shows up here. I can go in, I can edit the measure as well, right? And let me give you a preview of what the dimensions look like, right? So if I can go to the dimension, I can edit, I can create new hierarchies, right? I can add a level to that hierarchy, right? And update the level as I see fit, right? All the actions that you typically perform with a semantic model, you can all do that from within this UI. And if this UI is unable to support some construct, you can always go back to the XML to edit it, right? And a couple of things, right, which will hopefully become clearer if I just create a new model for you guys, right? Let me just go ahead and create a new model, right? Demo, right? And let me pick a data connection. Again, these data connections can be set up by the admin. They can, with the new roles and permissions that we are setting up, you can provide pretty granular permissions to data connections, right? So some users, you can set it up such that only some roles or some users have permissions to some data connections, right? And control it that way, right? And govern it that way. So not all data connections need to be available for everyone, right? You can govern the data connections that are available to users of the platform. So let me do this and create a data model, right? It shows up like this. You'll see all the tables in that database show up here. As a person creating the data model, perhaps you want to preview the data that's in each table. You can do that here, right? Really sort of preview the data and see if get a better understanding of the data. We will be introducing additional features to this to sort of highlight. As you can see, you can already see the data type for each of the columns, right? Very important for you to understand, very important in helping understand the data and so on and so forth, right? So you can do that for any of the tables listed here, and then you can bring in the fact table, right? I'm just dragging the fact table in, right? Then I can drag another table as a dimension, right? I can prepare the dimension in any way I want. I can link it up to the link it up to the fact table. I can create a new hierarchy, right? Fairly straightforward way to create a new hierarchy, and I'll just create a fairly simple hierarchy, right? And build this out. I can create a new level. I'll call it, let me bring a country, right? So that I maintain a hierarchy this way. And that's it. Very quick and easy. You created you added a fact table, you added a dimension table. You can go to advanced. You'll see that all of that shows up as Mondrian XML. You're free to edit it as you see fit, and then this model will be available for using Analyzer as it stands today. So we expect that this is going to be the user experience for any data modeling work that needs to happen, right, in BA going forward, right? And with the Analyzer and Dashboard Designer refresh, this will sort of seamlessly flow into that. But even now, right, with release 11, users will be able to sort of build out any data models they need for Analyzer or even for PIR, right? They can build out those data models here without having to go into schema workbench, or without having to handcraft any of the XML files, or without having to use data source wizard, which can be pretty clunky in doing this work. So that's sort of on the model editor piece. And again, there'll be search features to help you identify the models that you want to open up, edit, or what have you. So that's sort of a preview of what's coming in release 11 for BA in terms of the user experience refresh. There are a lot of other things, right? I mean, we can definitely cover that in more detail, but given the time that we have, these were some of the important things we wanted to highlight, right? The new user experience, for the overall user console, right? And then the fact that a lot of the functionality will be delivered this way, right? For example, PDI web, being able to create the transformations that Clemens took you through, that will also be available through through this new user experience, right? And the same goes for semantic model editor. We will have, depending on the user's roles and permissions, they will have other choices here as well, right? I mean, if they have analyzer available to them, they'll see analyzer here. If they have dashboard designer available to them, they'll see dashboard designer here. Same with PIR and so on. So all of this is dictated by the roles and permissions of the user, right? And as we do the analyzer dashboard designer refresh, that will also start, the look and feel will be consistent with this. So that's sort of the demo on the BA part of it, right? I mean, if I go back to my so just let me share my screen and window. If I go back to the PowerPoint, so that's on the Pentaho user console and semantic model editor, right? Before I move on to the PDI part, any questions? Okay, if not, then let me take you guys through, oh, sorry, go ahead, please.
Sorry, we have one question.
Two questions.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
Okay.
Will be the is Mondrian 4 and will the new version still require a star schema for the cubes?
In Mondrian 4, I will have to get back to you on that. Apologies, I don't have a ready answer for it. But let me check back, and we can definitely get back to you.
Thank you.
yeah, one other question.
Yeah, will there be import functionality for other semantic models of from different vendors like Oracle or Cognos?
At least we don't have that on our roadmap right now, but that is definitely something that we can take under consideration, because with all the other tooling around these things, right? I mean, if we are able to translate those models to say, how Mondrian represents it, right? Then then that's something we can definitely explore. So let me take a note of this and take that under consideration. Any particular ones that you had in mind? You mentioned Cognos. Anything else?
Yeah, the Oracle Analytics.
Oh, Oracle Analytics. Okay, Oracle Analytics, Cognos. There are plenty of other semantic model providers as well, right? Like Cube.js and so on, right? But yeah, some of the more, I guess, quote unquote traditional providers of this functionality. Yeah, we can definitely take that under consideration and see if that fits in our overall strategy and roadmap. Or at least, we can definitely think through, could we provide a way to potentially, even migrate those model specifications to Mondrian potentially, right? I mean, that would be one approach, right? And we can think through, how we can enable that for you. But in terms of directly supporting those type of semantic models, right, we will have to really think through. So let me take that under consideration and see, where we go there.
Yeah, I had a conversion in mind, so that's what I meant. But there's
conversion in mind. Okay. Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility, right? I mean, that really helps us as well, right? I mean, if you're talking about migrations to Pentaho, then that's definitely helpful for customers and for us as well. So let me take that. Let us take that. We'll go back and see, where we can, if we can put it in the roadmap, does it align with our strategy? Anything else?
No.
Cool. Let me take you guys through one last piece, right? Which is sort of a continuation of what what Clemens shared about about data pipes, right? And sort of take you through what our vision is, right? Post release 11 on what data pipes will look like, right? Even from within PDI, right? So just give me a second. This will take, call it 2 or 3 minutes. We can quickly cover this for you. So let me share the screen. Sorry, apologies. So you guys might have seen, what very view of what data pipes looks like in Clemens's presentation. Essentially, data pipes, right? We think of it as another user experience to simplify how customers create data pipes, right? How customers create pipelines to move data from A to B, right? Because a lot of times that's what ETL is, right? And we also want to empower, right, business users to be able to do that to a certain extent in a very limited way. Of course, in a very governed way. It's not like we can give them access, willingly access to do all sorts of things, right? But we want to enable business users to be able to do this, right? You might have heard the use case of, let's say you're a data scientist, right? And you know that, hey, this data resides in this location, but I want this in my S3 bucket in AWS because I've got a SageMaker model running. Or I want this data to be somewhere else because that's where my AI ML models can access that data, or the work that I'm doing to build out the AI ML models, it will be easier for me to access that data from that location as opposed to where the data resides currently today, right? Right now, they would go to the IT team, go to the data engineering team to build that pipeline out and to move that data from A to B, right? Our thinking is that with data pipes, business users can do it on their own. And also, there are a certain set of pipelines that do not require a whole lot of transformation in between, or even if they require a whole lot of transformation in between, right? There is room to provide a much better user experience for even the data engineers to set up the data pipes in a simpler way, right? So just to give you an example, again, this is just more of a UI mockup. This will be coming out post release 11, but just to give you guys a flavor, right? You would see, data pipes all laid out here. These are all the active data pipes, right? The current status of it. You will be able to see sort of the history of those things and so on. But let me show you what we mean by, what we think data pipes can be, right? So let me create a new template here, right? So this is the UI to create a very basic data pipe. Here I'm moving data from Postgres, spelling is wrong, but from Postgres to Redshift, right? A very typical use case, you've got operation data in your on-prem Postgres database. You want to move that data to AWS Redshift so that you can do analytics downstream on that, right? And you typically want to move the data as is. You may perform transformations, once the data lands in its destination, right? That's a very typical use case, right? You may want to land the data in the bronze zone and perform the rest of your transformation and everything in the landed target, right? So if you imagine that this is integrated with our data catalog, right, you're now selecting the source. You can easily search for the source based on a number of parameters, right? You don't have to know the exact database or table name. You can search for it, based on all the attributes that our data catalog sort of captures, right? It provides a fairly flexible search mechanism, right? So here, let's say I searched for, I know that, hey, I'm looking for transactions, customer transaction data. I sort of searched for it and I figured out that, hey, this is the table I want. So I select this table and then I can decide, hey, how do I want to bring this data in, right? Sometimes I may just want to do a scheduled batch ingestion, right? Every 6 hours, bring this data in. Or I might decide that, hey, I want this to be real-time change data capture, right? As soon as data changes in the source, bring it in. And with our change data capture module, we will be supporting this model as well. Or we may want to bring it in a scheduled change data capture mode, which is run this schedule every 6 hours, but only bring in the data that has changed since the last time you brought the data in, right? Without having to, build out that complex logic in your pipeline, right? With our CDC deployment, you will be able to do that in a very simple way, right? Without having to write complex logic to identify what has changed and what hasn't. Because we look at the logs, right? We look at the database logs to look at, to understand what has changed since the last time ingestion has happened. So you will have all these 3 modes available to you to bring the data in. And then next, okay, you've decided this is the data you want to bring in. You searched for the data in a very easy manner. You decided I want to bring it in a real-time manner. The next step for you is, hey, what are the what are the transformations I want to apply to this data before I land it in the destination, right? You may choose to just move the data as is, or you may choose to apply a transformation, right? Here again, given that we might expose this to non-technical users potentially, right, or less technical users potentially, right, or non-data engineers, if you will, then you have the option of saying, hey, apply a predefined transformation, a predefined set of transformations, right? I can't go and build out any transformation or anything. Apply a predefined set of transformations. This one, for example, right? Hey, this is a predefined transformation that has been built out and is available to users to mask any GDPR tagged data, right? So that it doesn't land in the destination, right? So this could be a transformation that has already been built out. The user need not worry about, hey, how do I mask this data, and so on and so forth. Here's a transformation that has already been built out, and they apply it, right? Or they can select from an existing file, or they can create their own, right? If this is a power user, we will give them the ability to create the transformations on their own, and as soon as they hit that, they go to the new PDI web UI. They can build out the transformations in whatever way they see fit, test it out, etc., however they see fit, and then just save it. So now that transformation will be applied to the data that is coming in, right? And then you have some optional actions, right, to tag the source, destination, send notifications if there are any errors, right? Tagging source and destination, these are more catalog operations, may or may not be there, when we present this in PDI. But we will have other optional actions to sort of monitor the pipeline, and then so on and so forth. And then finally, you can add a destination, right? Again, if this is all cataloged, then you can easily select the destination that you want. Here I'm selecting this, and on top of that, you can apply post-processing transformations, right? Once the data has landed in the destination, perhaps it has landed in your bronze zone, right? And you have a PDI job or a transformation, or even a DBT script for that matter, right? I mean, which is what a lot of our customers are doing. You might even have a DBT script that transforms the data from bronze, to silver, to gold. Perhaps you want to execute all those, right, as soon as the data lands. So let's just pick, hey, I'm going to apply a PDI job. You can decide which PDI jobs you want to execute once the data has landed. You just select that, and you're done, right? So now you've set up a pipeline that brings in data as the data changes from the transactions table. You apply a bunch of transformations to it, KTRs, KJBs to it, transformations of jobs to it, to transform the data, and then you land that data in the target. And once the data has landed, you might choose to apply additional transformations, right? These transformations could be PDI, KTRs, KJBs, or they could even be DBT scripts, right? So now you have set up this pipe. You can schedule it to run, or run it continuously if it's supposed to bring in real-time data, and that about completes the setup of this pipeline, right? So that's it. That's just to complete the user experience. And once you've set up the pipeline, you can even go to the history to see how this data pipe has been executing, right? Each execution, you can see the logs, right? And sort of have that complete experience for creating a simple pipeline, setting it up, and being able to monitor it on a continuous basis, right? Now, the thing is, all of this can be done in PDI today, but not as simply, right? I mean, you have to set up your KTR properly, you have to set up your KJB properly, you have to deploy it correctly, right? And you have to schedule it correctly in terms of monitoring the logs, right? I mean, that's also another additional challenge, right? But here, right, I mean, with this type of configuration, right, it simplifies, it really gives some more sophisticated users, right, say data scientists or some more sophisticated business analysts, right, the ability to sort of move data on their own without having to involve their IT team or their data integration team. And even for the data integration team, right, for the simpler pipelines, right, which can make do with, hey, I just want to ingest, apply some basic transformations, and land the data in this destination, they can set up those pipelines this way without having to do everything through PDI web. Of course, this still gives them the flexibility to build out more complex pipelines by linking it up with PDI web. So this is sort of our thinking in terms of the alternative user experience for both business users and data engineers to build out the simpler pipelines. Of course, there will be more complicated pipelines for which you will always go back to Spoon, or in our case, hopefully in the new future into PDI web to build out those more complicated pipelines. But for simpler pipelines, this is what we are thinking, would be the future. Any questions? This sort of completes the demo, if you will.
We need the data pipes with metadata injection.
Yes. Actually, all the transformations here are set up to have metadata injection. I mean, that's how the data is. I mean, that's how all these the templates that we will build out for this, right? That are getting applied here, they will all be working based on metadata injection.
Great. Yeah. Any questions? Questions in the chat? No questions so far. So Sandeep, thank you very much for this session.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to share this. And please, if you have any feedback on this, reach out to Yannick. He's there, and he can bring any feedback back to us.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.